another episode. New week, new heat, new episode. We love to see it. Always great to come on here and talk to you guys. If any of you guys are new to the show, this show is called Polar Opposites because me and my co-host DONTÉ, we agree, we disagree, but most importantly, we come together to discuss topics relating to pop culture, entertainment, politics, all of it. It's always a good episode every single time. That's why you guys are here, and we're happy that you're joining us. So if you're new and you love this show after hearing it, hit the following button on Spotify. Follow us on Apple Podcasts. We know that they updated their system, so be sure to do what you need to do to support the show. Also, we have a link in the description where you guys can follow us on social media, and we have an anonymous link where you guys can send in anonymous questions. So if you have a question, comment, concern, if you want to stir stuff up for the show, feel free to send stuff in. We love to see it. We love interacting with you guys, and it makes this show and doing this every week that much funner, I guess. That wasn't proper English, but you know, I'm not going to edit that. But thank you guys for listening. DONTÉ, new week. How are you doing this week?
If it's up, right? You know, like Cardi said.
Then it's stuck.
Hey, listen. The power of positivity, man. That's all I try to do. We got a lot to talk about. I'm not going to waste a lot of time on me. People don't give a fuck about how I'm doing. How are you doing?
It's hot out here in Texas. I'm glad to be inside. Hate to see it, but it is what it is. It is what it is. You guys out there, how are y'all doing as you're listening in your car or in the shower or whatever, and however you choose to listen? How are y'all doing? I know that I don't even know what to say. Anyway, DONTÉ, what are we talking about this week?
We have so much to cover this week. We have a lot of news stories to get to you. We got a lot of Twitter fuckery to talk about. Like, y'all got to strap in. You ain't had an episode like this in a while.
We have some heat, and we're not teasing that just to tease it. This is actually like a content-filled episode. So why don't we start with Off My Chest?
Justin's gotta give. It's off his chest. DONTÉ has got to give. It's off his chest. Justin and DONTÉ gotta get it off their chest.
All right. Thank you, Julia. So this week, DONTÉ actually wrote a couple things down for Off My Chest. I guess we're doing a dual Off My Chest this week. So
when people talk about being pro-life, and I know we haven't really dug deep into abortion on this show, but when people talk about being pro-life, and usually those people come from the right side of the aisle, I just love to call bullshit, right? You want to tell women what they can and can't do with their bodies, but hey, free reign on guns. You know, we have a mass shooting. It's not the gun's fault, it's the people's fault, but you're not doing anything to improve this situation. So, Texas, you want to whitewash history. You want to lie to kids and tell them what happened in the history of this country and the history of your state. You want to tell women what they can and can't do with their bodies.
Governor Greg Abbott signing a bill Wednesday, banning abortions in most cases where a fetal heartbeat is detected, potentially as early as 6 weeks into pregnancy, before many women even know they're pregnant.
In Texas, we work to save those lives.
Similar heartbeat bans passed by other states have so far failed to hold up in court. The Texas bill is unique, permitting almost anyone to sue any person or provider who may have helped someone get an abortion after the limit.
You're so busy taking away people's rights that you can't make sure that your fucking power grid is functioning correctly. There, I digress. Justin, you could talk about your home state.
To be honest, I'm not sure what the permit law even does. What is the point of that? People that own guns, have they been complaining that they don't like having to carry a permit around to prove that it's a registered gun? I don't understand it. Like, we have to carry our driver's license. It's not some burdensome thing that we have to do. It's just normalized. And I think that permits should continue to be normalized. I don't know why they're saying that if you have a registered gun, you don't have to have a permit. I don't really think that much good can come from that. And then with the abortion bill, y'all know, I think that a woman is a hard choice to make, but ultimately I don't think that it's my place or any man's place to tell a woman what she should and shouldn't do with her body. Abortion is a touchy subject for everybody, and just because you are pro-choice doesn't mean that you think abortion should be just everywhere and that you love it. Like, it's complicated for everybody. Even people that are pro-choice still struggle with the idea of abortion. It's not something that's easy to grasp, but at the end of the day, in this country, we separate our personal beliefs for the good of everybody else, for the collective. So if your religious views don't necessarily align with abortion, some people are able to compartmentalize and say that, hey, I might not agree with this myself, but it's not my religion's right, it's not a man's right to say what a woman should and shouldn't do with her body. And I think that that's how it should be.
Agreed 100%. That's where I stand on it. You can't tell a woman what to do with her body. It should be her choice, right? I mean, there have been wars fought over this. There's amendments in the Constitution drafted about life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. I don't know. And what gets so hypocritical about is when they put these provisions in there like, oh, everything's banned over 6 weeks. Most women don't know they're pregnant by 6 weeks. In certain states, they have, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. In cases of rape and incest, there's still no abortion allowed. And it's like, well, so male governor who's telling women what they could do with their body. What happens if that's your daughter who gets raped or is in an incestual relationship? Is she allowed to get that abortion? Would you make a case for it then? I think a lot of times some of the more stupid things that happen in our society could be solved by a little empathy and putting yourself in somebody else's shoes.
And I agree as well. But with critical race theory, I know a couple months ago we were talking about the whole term defund the police, and people were saying that, I agree with the stance of limiting police budgets and allocating those resources elsewhere. Maybe the term critical race theory needs to be looked at. Maybe it sounds weird and scientific and people don't understand it because people think that critical race theory is basically the idea of saying that white people are evil and white people are to blame for all of the world's problems. People think that's what it is. So it's easy for them to hear critical race theory and be like, no, we don't want our kids learning that. I think that maybe instead of critical race theory, they should just call it the truth or maybe history. I don't know. I feel like that works much better than calling it critical race theory. I feel like sometimes the intellectual side of the left likes to come up with all these terms that might make sense to us, but for other people, it's weird or they don't understand it. Let's make things easy. Call it the truth and call it history. There you go.
Agree 100%. And like you said, it's not the critical race theory is not saying, hey, white people are evil.
So critical race theory is a framework. It's a theoretical framework that was developed in the 1980s by legal scholars to help us understand how it is that structural and racial disparities endure in our society and how that is actually engendered in some of our laws and policies. And so the idea was to get us to think systemically as opposed to just thinking that racism manifests by individuals just mistreating each other, that there are actual structures in our society that create these different kinds of racial gaps and racial disparities economically, in terms of housing, in terms of education. And so that's what they do, is that they actually show us how how laws that are supposed to be neutral actually can promulgate or support racial disparities. That's a theoretical framework. I think what we're talking about today, though, is some contestation and conflict over how you teach about race, racial hierarchies, critically, racism in schools and society. And so the two are being conflated.
During Black History Month, where they're not just handing out peanut butter cookies to kids and being like, yay, black people. No, they're talking about the good, the bad, the ugly, and the perseverance of African Americans in this country. And also how being white has historically given you some advantages over your lifetime and your ancestors' lifetime. It's kind of hard to be on a level playing field when you weren't giving access to education. It was illegal for you to learn how to read and write, when you couldn't own property, and when you're disenfranchised financially. So, right. Just saying.
It's because we're not even going to get into separate but equal, going to a black school, going to a white school with lower resources. Make that make sense. But since this is not the episode for that, I digress. We have more things to cover, but we felt the need to talk about that because it's very, very important. But
and to transition out of that, happy Juneteenth, everybody.
Yes, look at DONTÉ. Happy Juneteenth. Well, this episode is a couple days after Juneteenth, but happy Juneteenth to you, DONTÉ. It looks like our government decided to finally recognize Juneteenth as a federal holiday. So from now on, if you guys are in college and you're taking summer classes, you will have off on June 19th. We'd love to see it.
With the stroke of a pen today, Juneteenth became the first new federal holiday since since Martin Luther King Day in 1983.
Happy Juneteenth, everybody.
June 19th, 1865 was the day a Union general arrived in Galveston, Texas to inform enslaved people they were free. 2 months after the end of the Civil War and 2 years after the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation.
Is this the change that we wanted?
See, I don't want to go there with you. Let's just talk about Juneteenth a little bit, though. From you being from Texas, that's been a state holiday there for a long time, correct? Right? So you grew up with an understanding of Juneteenth more than most people on national stage have. Correct?
That's not true, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I never knew what Juneteenth was until like last year.
So did you not have off from school for it?
No, we've never gotten off for Juneteenth ever. It might have been listed in a Google calendar, but it's never been recognized in school, and I've never even heard about it being talked about ever until like last year, honestly.
Okay. Here's a Sparks Notes version of Juneteenth. After the South surrendered because the Confederacy was a bunch of fucking losers and should not have statues, a general rode into Galveston, Texas, and let the slaves know that slavery had been abolished, the South lost the war, and they are now free people. The ex-slaves decided, hey, this should be a holiday, and they celebrated Juneteenth. Now, the fucked up part about this is that Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863. This event didn't take place until 1865. So for 2 years, these people didn't know that legally they should have been free people. Mm-hmm. But it's a national holiday, first federal holiday since 1982 when they made MLK Jr. Day a holiday.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal because it's being recognized by our government. But in the grand scheme of everything, this is nothing. We get recognition, but this is not policy. Policy is what changes things. As great as this is, I'm not satisfied. And I don't think that anybody should be satisfied because I equate this to people doing Black Lives Matter Avenue and painting the streets with Black Lives Matter. That's cute and everything, but that does nothing. It makes people feel good, but at the end of the day, there's no policy that's being enacted. Reparations have not been served. As far as I'm concerned, we're still at square one. Until we have actual policies in place that will do something, this does nothing for me.
I agree with you that it's a symbolic win and not a policy win. You know, look, we've had plenty of hours of dialogue and discussion on and off this podcast about we need to have policy wins. That creates change, like you said, right? So, yes, to me, yeah, it's a big deal, and it's nice that it's being federally recognized as a holiday, and it will spark more people to have an understanding of what Juneteenth is and what it means and the struggle for freedom. But we have a voting rights bill that we need to pass because it got gutted in 2013. There's infrastructure plans that they need to pass. There's so much policy that needs to be passed. There's been a lot of inaction on it. So I agree with you that, hey, this is fine, but it's a footnote. There's bigger prizes to be won. And honestly, it's not even a prize at this point. It's our fucking democracy that is on the line.
Right. So. Beautiful gowns, but honestly, it does nothing for me. So I'm looking forward to the policy. Joe Biden, Kamala, I'm waiting for the policy.
Taylor Swift.
Okay, great gowns, beautiful gowns.
Black people are waiting for the policy. We want to see it.
I gotta jump in here for a second. I gotta jump in here and play devil's advocate and be fair. They have proposed a lot of policy. You have a senator who is now the most powerful politician in Washington, regardless of Joe Biden, and Joe Manchin, who was really a Republican in Democratic clothing, who is saying, hey, we shouldn't pass anything unless the minority has a say. Did Mitch McConnell give a fuck about your opinion, Joe Manchin, the past 4 years when they were in power? I thought this was a democracy. This isn't a land of, hey, you lose the presidency, the Senate, and the House, and you still get to determine what bills get passed. That's not how it works. That's why we have elections, right? We have elections to send people to Congress to represent our thoughts and what we believe should be the agenda and the policies passed. So I hope that in 2022 that they can pick up some more seats and that guy can just change his party to Republican and he doesn't matter anymore. But he's really holding hostage a lot of what the Biden-Harris administration is trying to get done here.
Right. I don't know. I'm just going to say that Democrats are weak And our inaction is the reason why people question the need to vote in the first place. When they see people that are elected to pass policies not doing anything, stifling votes so policies don't get passed, that doesn't entice me to want to vote. It's like more of the same all the time. Every 2 years when y'all tell us to get out and vote, this is the result. So it makes it harder on us when we're telling people to vote. And this is what they're seeing in Congress. We look like fools. At the end of the day, they're making themselves look stupid, and they're not doing anything that's going to materially affect the lives of other people. So I don't know. It's tough because every year it's the same old talking points and nothing ever gets done. If the Democrats don't want to be perceived as weak, get stuff done when you're given the power. Because let me tell you, when the Republicans get in there, they start moving and shaking and twerking. Their tax cuts, they get it through. They gut out all these voting rights policies. They get everything that they want. But Democrats go in and they start being nice and, oh, we need bipartisanship. We need to work together. Reach across the aisle. Don't reach across anywhere, because if you reach across, they will snap your arm off. So don't even try it. Stop wasting your time and get stuff done. Because this Juneteenth stuff, y'all are singing in the White House and ooh, yeah, that is cute and everything, but that does nothing. So continue to sing, but how about we sing about some policies, okay?
Can you print out the lyrics? Can we get on Genius and figure out what it means?
Yeah, we need to do that because I don't know what they were singing about. I know that they were happy, but I wish that a piece of policy about policing was passed and they were singing about that, or voting rights policy was passed and they were singing about that. Until then, I won't be singing anything.
Well, it looks like we stand in solidarity on that one.
Yes, my brother. Fist of righteousness up in the air. So Kevin Hart. So over the weekend, or I don't even know when this happened, but a few days ago, Kevin Hart made some news because in response to cancel culture supporters, he said, shut the F up. So a lot of people were tweeting at him and saying that he's not funny, this and that. And whatever people were saying on Twitter got under Kevin Hart's skin. And this is what he had to say. Sometimes you gotta sit back and laugh at some of the shit you hear, and I hear all of it. The he's not funny slander is best. This is for you. I have 3 stand-up comedy specials that fall in the top 10 highest grossing comedy specials of all time. 2 of my specials are in the top 3 of all time. I have been the highest grossing comedian in entertainment for years now. I've also been the highest grossing comedian in the box office with $4 billion in earnings. I've also turned my comedic talent into a place of business and branding and radio and other revenue streams. The hate and slander fuels me to do more. You guys are what makes this business fun, because it's not about getting to the top, it's about doing your best to stay on top after you get there. I rarely talk mess, but I feel the need to today. Stop believing these headlines and read the actual articles. You guys fall for the banana in the tailpipe trick every damn time. J. Cole said it best. If you're laughing at a millionaire, the joke's on you. Now back to your regularly scheduled program. Live, love, and laugh. All right, so obviously that's Kevin Hart's response to critics that told him that he's not funny. Somebody tweeted, it's interesting to hear Kevin Hart say F cancel culture when he had the perfect opportunity to actually take a stand against it at a time when he was being confronted with it, and yet he opted instead to buckle and apologize. Then somebody else said that Eddie Murphy, Cat Williams are 2 guys that are funnier than Kevin Hart. And basically they're saying that Eddie Murphy has admitted that he can understand how what he was doing with his comedy specials in the past was harmful. And he said Kevin Hart is dying on the same hill. So what do you have to say to everything?
Well, that was a lot. I'll start from the back and work my way to the forward. Eddie Murphy and Cat Williams it's not even close how much more funny they are than him. Yes, if you listen to Eddie Murphy's 2 specials from the 80s, Raw and Delirious, a lot of that does not age well. Like, he says a lot of stuff about people that are homosexual that it's not funny, it's cringe. And it was even cringe back in the day. And if Kevin Hart's deciding to die on that hill, well, good for him, because that sounds like a losing battle to me. You know, I'm a firm believer that it's okay to talk your shit sometime. But the thing is, nobody was talking about the money that he's grossing. Yeah, we know that you make money. They're talking about your skills as a comedian. I've said plenty of times, and if it's an unpopular opinion, so what? Like, that's what I think that, and I beat my chest for this all the time, that's what I think that he doesn't get about this. People are still allowed to have opinions in 2021. I don't find his stand-up specials funny. I don't find his movies funny. I respect his work ethic. The man has built a kingdom. So there's a talent in that in itself. Like, you are great at marketing yourself and your skills, because I'm not going to say that you're unskilled. You're great at doing this, and good for you. But yes, there are people that are funnier than you. It's just what it is. Nobody, when people start throwing money out there, it sounds insecure to me, because it's like, we're talking about a craft. We ain't talking about earning. You know what I'm saying? Are you following me here?
Right. And
then, talking about stand up against cancel culture, that person made a great point. He had a couple times where he could have done that, right? He decided not to. So, people like to talk, but when the rubber meets the road, a lot of people get real quiet, don't they?
Right. It's just interesting. It's interesting because I don't think that Kevin Hart is funny, and this isn't a personal attack or anything on Kevin Hart. I really don't find much stand-up comedy funny. That's not really my go-to for a laugh. I don't sit on the couch and watch comedy specials and get my laugh on. That's just not me. But for other people, that's their thing, and that's fine. My thing is that I feel like people that feel the need to boast about their accomplishments when nobody asked, it's a sign of insecurity, to be honest, because whatever that they were saying triggered him in some way, and rather than defending how funny he is, he started resorting to his box office. He started resorting to how much money he's making. Nobody asked about that. People just said that you're not funny, and I feel like that's a defense mechanism, and that's an insecurity that he might feel that he's not funny. So to back up the fact that he's on top, he feels the need to boast about his numbers when that's not what people were arguing about. People are allowed to have their opinions, and sometimes we don't agree with every single opinion that comes our way. There are people that might not like this podcast, and that's fine. There are people that might not like me, and that's also fine. But I don't care. I know who I am. I know that this show is not for everybody, and it says that in the description. This podcast is not for everybody, but it's for anybody. If you're willing to listen to people, talk about interesting topics and try and do so in an intelligent way, this podcast might be for you. But I'm not going to market it and say that, oh, you should listen to this. This is for you, because I know that it's not for everybody, and that's fine. So honestly, Kevin Hart should understand that this is comedy. Some people find your stuff funny. Some people don't. You're successful. You're making a lot of money, and I think that speaks for itself. So clearly you're doing something right. Even if you're the nicest person in the world, people will find something negative to bring up, and there's nothing you can really do about that, honestly, especially when you're a big figure in the public eye.
Now that's a fact. And no matter how nice you are, no matter how many good things you do, how many positive things you do, somebody will always find a reason to say something negative about you or find something negative about you. I said it on here like a month ago, right? You could be the sweetest peach in the tree, but don't everybody like peaches, man?
Amen. Amen. But that's our message to Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart, I assume he's a good guy. I think that he cheated on his wife, but I don't know. But other than
shade, I think he's a good guy, but he's a cheater.
I mean, that's what I heard. I can only go on conjecture. Allegedly.
Can we stay here for a second? Yes, allegedly, because we ain't getting sued.
Right.
Can we stay here for a second? So I was on the podcast IG, and I saw Justin going back and forth with somebody in a comment on something, and he said cheating is a choice, sir. And I don't remember. Can you explain what the full context of the conversation was? I just saw your comment.
Yeah. So my podcast buddy Dewey, he has a podcast. Let me give it a shout out. It's called Prescribed with DR. So he has a podcast, and he posted a question on his feed talking about if your significant other that you live with pays all of the bills and you caught them cheating, would you say something? Or since they're paying all the bills, would you keep it to yourself? And people had some interesting responses. I responded to a comment about somebody cheating, and I noticed that he didn't say anything about it. And I was like, Dewey, cheating is a choice. It's not a mistake. And then Dewey was like, I don't know. It's a mistake every time I do it. And I was like, you're annoying.
Wow.
And I had to laugh.
See, in a world full of futures, we need more Russell Wilsons. You know what I mean?
That's you. Come save the day,
Yo,
Dante.
Hey, listen, I'm delivered. I believe in change, sir. You know what I'm saying? Delivered with a T. I have seen the mountaintop, funny, as some will say.
Maybe we can talk about that in a future episode. If you're living with somebody but you're not paying the bills but they cheated, are you going to say something? What would you do? Because if it was me, if I didn't have a job, I'd find me a job and then move out on my own, because I'm not living under those circumstances, okay?
Well, this is a little complex. So, did the person cheat on you in your own place that you guys are living? Because, that's unforgivable. You can't come back from that. Me, myself, personally, I would never be in a situation where I'm dependent on somebody like that. You know what I mean? I have my finances in the situation where something happens, I can get up and leave. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like, it's all right. It's going to be okay. But you're talking about depending on somewhere. It's like, hey, if this person cheats on you, if you want to leave this person, you can't because you won't have a place to live or no money in your account. Yeah, you fucked up. You made bad life choices. Like, you had weak parents, in my opinion. Just saying.
Well, I think that's why people always preach about having your own. You know, didn't Destiny's Child have a song, "The shoes on my feet, I bought it. The car I'm driving, I bought it. The house I live in, I bought it. Because I depend on me. I depend on me." So that's a message for, well, that's kind of sexist to say that, because men, your woman could be paying the bills as well. And, you know, you don't have your own money. So men, get your stuff together as well. I think that's a message, that have your own money, have your own thing. So if something arises, you're not trapped. Because that's a scary situation to be in, where you hate the person because they cheated, but you have no place to go. That sounds like you didn't make some good choices.
I think that was a bad song to reference, because they do have a song called "Cater to You." Just putting it out there, guys. You know what I mean? If we want to get problematic, let's do it. But
that's so funny. I mean, it's funny because I think that has been blowing up on social media. People took a deep dive into the lyrics of Destiny's Child's song. It's called "Cater to You." It has lyrics that, "I'll put your do-rag on, I'll have your meal ready to you, I'll do everything for you, let me cater to you." I thought y'all were independent women, and now you're doing all this stuff for your man. Interesting.
Are you not allowed to do something to make somebody feel good? Like, they ain't talking about being a slave to somebody. Like,
that sounded like slavery to me. That sounded like slavery to me.
As we know, as you admitted on here, you guys didn't have the best education on that out in Texas. So,
oh my gosh,
no shade though.
I did. I went to a good school.
not when it comes to race.
Right.
I don't know, man. Art is art. I don't know. I don't want to spend time talking about "Cater to You." If somebody has a question about it, you write us in and we'll talk about it. But I don't want to spend time on that.
The last story that we have, and it's about Drake. Drake? What's going on? Drake?
Drake? The nigga that got bodied by Pusha T? The nigga that hiding his kid from the world, but his world want to hide from the kid? Aubrey Graham in a wheelchair? Drake?
Yes!
The one that's hiding the world from the kids, but the kids want to hide from the world? Drake, what's going on?
I mean, I just seen on Black Twitter and on Reddit, you know, people have been saying that he has a lot of allegedly has a lot of tendencies which would lean towards that he likes underage women. Talking about his friendship with Millie Bobby Brown from Stranger Things. Talking about him taking pictures like he's on a date with other girls who are underage. So I sent Justin some stuff, and you can kind of dig into it a little bit further.
Somebody on Reddit gave us some more information, and they said, at the 2018 Emmy Awards, Millie Bobby Brown famously spoke openly about her friendship with Drake. She said, "I love him. I met him in Australia, and he's honestly a great friend and a great role model. You know, we text. We just texted each other the other day, and he was like, 'I miss you so much.' And I was like, 'I miss you more.' He's great. He's coming to Atlanta, so I'm definitely going to go and see him. I'm so excited," she gushed. When she was asked about what they chat about, she responded, "We talk about boys. He helps me. He's great. He's wonderful. I love him." So that's what she said when referencing her friendship with Drake. And I found this very strange because in 2018, Millie Bobby Brown was 14. So I don't know why a grown 20-something, late 20-something-year-old man is texting with a 14-year-old. I don't understand it.
There's honestly nothing to understand. It's just creepy and weird. It does sound like he's grooming this girl. Like, you're telling a 14-year-old that's not your family, your kid, or, you know, I guess it'd be even weird. Like, if one of my coaches texts me back in the day talking about, "Hey, I miss you," I'd be like, "Nigga, what?" I'm telling my dad, what?
Right.
Weird. Yeah, I mean, it just sounds like predatory behavior. It's really odd and strange that you're having text conversations with a 14-year-old. And talking
it's
about
nasty.
And you're giving her boy advice. Like, what's up with you, man? Like, that's strange.
You're not her
man.
parents, like, or her friends. Like, that's weird. A grown man. I'm not interested in talking to a 14-year-old. What are we going to talk about? La La Land? Like, what are we talking about? Like, so are you still going to listen to Drake's music?
Yeah. He hasn't been accused of anything yet. If that time comes and I'm listening to this music, like, so it's like the R. Kelly thing, right? Like, you could draw some parallels here. One, there hasn't been a serious accusation against the man. That day comes, we got to look at the evidence and let it all bear out. if in my heart, in my mind, I'm listening to these songs, I'm like, yo, he's talking about little ass girls. The same thing that happened with me with R. Kelly. Before it was cool to be like, oh, I don't fuck with R. Kelly. Like, I'll never forget, man. I'm listening in the car one day. Seems Like You're Ready comes on. I'm like, this is about a little girl. I am disgusted. I never want to hear this again, and delete all his music off my phone. If that same thing happens with Drake, then no, I will never listen to him again. Just can't do it.
I don't know. This isn't the first time. I don't know. That's weird behavior. I'm getting off scot-free in this situation because I don't even listen to Drake like that anyway. So it's not going to be a conflict of interest for me to be calling him out and calling him problematic for talking to a 14-year-old while still listening to his music. I don't really care about Drake, so I'm free from this. So y'all don't pin anything on me. I don't listen to him like that anyway. So look into it, y'all. Look into it. Look at your faves. Look at your faves, because I know some of y'all that are calling him problematic will be the first ones listening to his Certified Lover Boy album when it comes out first week. So just letting y'all know, calling out your faves. Allegedly.
Y'all better off listening to The Weeknd.
Oh no, we're good.
Just saying.
We're good.
For the one time.
Let's see.
For the one time. Can you just tell people what your aversion is to Abel?
I don't hate him. I just don't think that he's a legend. I think that he hasn't had enough years in the game for people to be proclaiming him a legend. The people that listened to the show that voted in the poll said that The Weeknd is not a legend, and I stand by my opinion, and the listeners are speaking as well. So we've heard you. I've heard you. There's nothing much to be said. The guy is not a legend. That doesn't mean that he can't be a legend in the future, but right now he's not a legend. So I wish Saturday and Sunday well. He's a great guy, great music apparently, so allegedly. There you go.
This guy's the shade king over here. I wish Saturday and Sunday well. Oh my God. Woo.
He's a cool dude, I hear. Cool dude.
I mean, he almost gave your fave Selena a kidney, so just saying.
Oh, Selena Gomez is your fave. That's your fave.
I will not.
I listen to real artists.
You slander my good name like that.
I listen to real artists. She's besties with your new fave Taylor Swift, so y'all have something in common, actually.
I'm going to go on a silent protest the rest of this podcast now because you out here slandering my good name. I am not a Selena Gomez fan. She doesn't make music. I don't care what nobody say.
She hums and whispers. I think that's artistry in some way.
All right.
Anyway, moving on, let's get into our main topic. So this week's main topic was inspired by a tweet. I don't have a Twitter, but if I did, I would be distracted because there's so much that goes on, and a lot of people are comedians with no avatar. We love to see it. But anyway, so somebody tweeted, "Black people, what is something that you want our community freed from in the year 2021? So DONTÉ and I took screenshots of several things that people were saying, and we're going to talk about each one. So we have our own individual lists, so we'll read ours out and then we'll talk about it. DONTÉ, you are up first. What does the black community need to get rid of in 2021?
Do we want to start lighthearted or do we want to go heavy?
I don't care. I'm down for anything.
All right, I'll start lighthearted. You can go heavy if you want. I'll start lighthearted. Some black people, the black community can be done with in 2021. Well done steaks. I co-sign this completely. Listen, you do not get a steak well done. Okay? If that's your MO, just order chicken. Order something else. But you don't need to be wasting a perfectly good steak chewing on it like cardboard. Well done steaks is not the look.
You know what? If you have the coins, do what you want to do. I'm all for people being happy in their lives. Life is short.
It'll be real short when you choke on that fucking steak too.
Oh my God. You know what? If a well done rubbery steak makes you happy, who am I to judge you? I feel like with snakes, some people eat that too. Sometimes with steaks, there's snobbery. There's really a lot of snobbery when it comes to people eating steaks. There are people that like it cut from the animal and then put on the plate immediately, not even cooked, with blood coming out. Some people like it rubberized like a hockey puck. To each their own, do what you want to do. Personally, for me, I like flavor, I like taste. I like my steak to taste good. So I feel like always ordering my steak medium. That's my go-to. Medium, there's just enough gushing out, but it's still cooked, so you're getting the best of both worlds there. But that's me. But if you want to eat a hockey puck, that's on you. If you want to eat slaughterhouse blood and meat, that's on you as well. To each their own.
All right, what do you got for us?
All right, so something that the black community needs to get rid of, saying I'm 10 minutes away when they ain't even left the house yet. That's what somebody said. This is me.
It's me too. It's me too.
There's been situations where everybody's expecting me to be there. People have already arrived. And then I text somebody, oh, I'm almost there, but I'm still in my bed. I haven't even taken a shower, haven't even put on my clothes, but I'm texting people because I want them to think that I'm coming. And then I end up being late. Usually to important events, I try and get there on time. But if it's to an outing, I always find myself running late, and I hate it. And a lot of black people are on what we call colored people time. I'm Nigerian, so we have African time, and it's worse than colored people time, so you can't even imagine.
I have been very guilty of this throughout my life, but I have to admit, over the past 2 or 3 years, I've gotten a lot better with my time management and being on time places, because it's really just disrespectful. Professionally, you know, if I have meetings with people and stuff and they show up late, I'm like, yo, you must not value my time. Like, you think I'm a, that's what the hood in me says, right? Like, you must think I'm a, right? But the professional me is like, so you just don't care about my time. Like, you think that I just get paid to do nothing, to just sit here and wait for you. You know, something my brother said to me one time when I was younger, he was like, if you tell somebody you're going to be there, always show up, man. Like, that's just what it is. Like, all you have is your word. And that really resonated with me. So shout out to you, Justin. So yeah, I do my best to be on time, man. Like, I don't tell nobody I left until I actually did leave the crib. But we do need to do better as a people with this.
My friends know. Like I said, I'm almost there. I'm 10 minutes away. Then 30 minutes later, I'm still not there. Oh, traffic. Things happen, y'all. Things happen. But I always try and be better. It's good to be on time because you respect everybody's time. It's not just your time. You're on everybody's dime as well. So be on time.
Yeah. So what I have next is elders thinking it's disrespectful for people to backtalk, you know, anybody that's younger than them to defend themselves when they just got disrespected themselves. That sounded kind of confusing. So talking back to your elders and defending yourself if they came at you a certain way. Yeah, they need to let that go, because I'm a grown ass man. I pay taxes. You know what I mean? Like, if you say something that's wrong or hurtful, especially if it's aimed at me or mines, I'm gonna let you know about it. I don't care that you old. I don't care that you used to break bread with my grandma. Like, that don't mean shit to me. You disrespect me and mines, you gonna hear about it. If you wrong and you sitting here talking about it like it's a fact, I don't care how old you are. Unless you like a toddler, I ain't gonna sit there and argue with a toddler. That's
right.
Stupid. But you older than me, I don't care. We gonna talk about it. Back talking, air quotes. I don't believe in it. I believe in having a conversation. And if you wrong, you wrong. And I'm gonna let you know you wrong, but I'm gonna back it up with facts. If you just tell me, well, nah, this is just what I think. Okay, that's an opinion. We can agree that it's an opinion. But I ain't going to sit here and take it as fact just because you older than me. You said it. There's one thing I've learned growing up and being an adult and in that transition of becoming an adult. There's a lot of stupid fucking people out here. I don't know how a lot of these people have survived this long, to be completely honest with you. And I'm not just going to take some dumb motherfucker's opinion on something and take it as fact.
No, it's true. And I think that a lot of older people feel like because they're older, they deserve to speak and never be challenged in any way. And I think that's an antiquated way of thinking. Nobody is beyond, being talked to. Nobody is beyond being told that they're wrong in a situation. And I feel like that's dangerous, especially in the African community. Like, we were raised with not talking back to your parents at all. Your parents can say whatever they want to you, but at the end of the day, you're never allowed to defend yourself. Even if your parents are wrong, you just sit there, be quiet, and take everything that they're saying to you. And I think that kind of clouds our relationship with our parents, because it's almost sad, because I see a lot of, relationships with my friends' parents and how they treat their kid. And it's very different. There's open communication. The parents take accountability when they're wrong. But sometimes when my parents are wrong, they do not take accountability. They just move on and act like nothing happened without ever apologizing or acknowledging when they're wrong in a situation. Everybody can be wrong. And just because you're older, it doesn't mean that you've never made a mistake or that you're perfect. Nobody's perfect. And we do ourselves an injustice by not recognizing that. But it's important to have clear communication. I think kids in the future, hopefully with parents, not wanting to repeat the same traumas that they went through, they're going to try and, have a good relationship with their child, because that's how it starts. So at the same time, you still have to have a level of respect for everybody. I do believe that elders deserve respect, but I deserve respect as well. And we should never forget that.
Agreed 100%. What you got for us?
This one is interesting. So somebody said the black community needs to rid itself from parents steering their kids away from creativity / physical talents to focus solely on academic subjects. Both can coexist. And I definitely, relate to that. I don't think I've ever talked about this on the show, but, growing up, my parents wanted all three of us, my siblings, my older sister, and my younger brother, to be doctors. And we weren't ever allowed to explore the stuff that we liked or the stuff that we're good at. My dad just said, education and the pathway of medicine is clear and direct. If you just follow the path, you will be a doctor. But we were never really allowed to explore what we liked. And that's the case for a lot of Nigerian kids. We're basically given three options of an engineer, a lawyer, or a doctor. And if you're not one of those, you're a failure or whatever. And I don't think that's fair. There's so many people that are good at art and can make a lot of money doing art. There's so many kids that are talented physically, whether that's track and field, because the Olympics are coming up, whether that's basketball or whatever, but because their parents always push them into their books, they can never, see their talents. And I don't think that's fair. My younger brother, I think, is 6 foot. He's taller than me. He, would have been good at basketball. He had a passion for it. He kept telling my parents to buy a basketball hoop so he can practice at home. And my parents never did that because it was expected that he was gonna just go through school and, make his money that way. But, I feel like my parents in a way did him a disservice because you never know what talent and what gifts will come from your child when you let them be who they are. Who knows if my brother would have earned, a basketball scholarship and paid his way through school rather than paying out of pocket to go to school. Allow your kids to be good at what they're good at, allow their talents to flourish, and don't stifle it by leading them down a path that, yes, is financially stable, but at the end of the day, the child is not realizing their full potential.
I agree with you. I can say, thankfully that my parents never tried to push any career path on me or dissuade me from pursuing my interest. But that is a very common theme I've seen in other people's households. I think it's okay to want the best for your child and try to give them advice on, what may be good for them in the long term, right? But I think it's wrong to tell them not to pursue their interests as long as they're not hurting themselves or ruining their lives, right? If they're like, hey, my interest is doing heroin, then yeah, I would tell my kid, nah, that ain't your fucking interest no more.
I don't know who's interested in that.
You'd be surprised.
Wow.
But no, I think it's wrong to try to hamper or put out the fire that they have for something. You should support them as long as it's, constructive and good for them. You should support that. And you shouldn't ever tell them that they're a failure because they didn't go into a certain line of work. That could have so much lasting damage on somebody, and that could fuck up your relationship with your kid forever. So I don't believe in that. No.
It's harmful, but that's something that the Black community, the African community, everybody needs to rid themselves from. Somebody said the Black community needs to rid itself of doing interviews on the street with iPhones as microphones, sitting at tables and couches with bad opinions and calling it a podcast, listening to The Breakfast Club. Free us from Charlemagne in general, actually. That had me cackling. I thought that was so funny because actually I'm not going to judge anybody. If you want to make content with a cell phone, go ahead and do it. There's so many avenues these days to put out content, whether that's a YouTube channel or whatever equipment that you have, make the best out of it. As long as you're making good content, I'm all for it. That's what I'm going to say because I'm not going to judge everybody because everybody's budget is different. So if that's, how you do your podcast, if it's good, I hope that it's successful.
We talked about this on the episode you guys heard about the Q&A, right? I'm never going to knock nobody's hustle or what you do, and the way that the resources that you have to do it. Everybody has to start somewhere. In terms of like Charlemagne, The Breakfast Club and all that, like I don't give a shit about celebrity lives and gossip and stuff like that. So like I unfollowed them, I unfollowed the Shade Room, all that stuff because I really truly don't care. If that's what you're into, if you like that kind of stuff, sure. If you like, other people's messiness, I know a ton of people that like other people's messiness. You know what I mean? If that's what gets you off, great, good for you. We all have the pursuit of happiness in the Constitution, right. Just not Black people until 1865. But no shade.
I love how he says no shade when it was all shade. All shade.
It got 10 degrees cooler in here when I said that. It was weird.
Do you have something up next?
Here's the last one I have. I believe Justin has some more, but here's the last one I have. Here's what some actually her on Twitter is Big Bogus Bitch on Twitter. So get at her, not me.
Okay.
She said in honor of Juneteenth, something that she wants our community to leave in 2021 is supporting and babying all Black men. Justin, you want to go first, or do you want me to to take this.
I mean, it feels like you're jumping at the bit to talk, so you can say it.
So, who has been supporting and babying these black men? Have you, big bogus bitch, been taken advantage of by some black men, and you were paying for that? You were paying their bills and letting them borrow your car and babying them? Like the movie Baby Boy with Tyrese and Taraji? Is that what you've been doing? Are you speaking from personal experience? Because you sound hurt, sis. And I appreciate if you let that hurt go. Because there's a ton of black men out there like Justin and myself and the people I associate with that ain't nobody babying us. Ain't nobody supporting me financially. I can tell you that for a fucking fact. So I take offense to this saying all black men. I don't know the type of lame, low quality niggas that you dealing with. Maybe it's a problem with you, baby girl. Maybe you need to step your game up. What the fuck are you bringing to the table that you attract these kind of men?
So hostile.
Sometimes it's hard for people to look in the mirror. Sometimes the problem is you, because it sounds like you have been through a lot of men that you've been in the same situation with. So what is it about you? Do you have the word Mark written on your forehead where people know, oh, they about to hit a lick with you? I don't know. I'm just saying, don't group us all in the same category.
I feel like you are awfully very triggered by this. I will say that just because somebody is putting an opinion on there doesn't mean that they necessarily believe that. I feel like you owe this woman an apology, because I feel like not everybody is speaking for themselves. There might be speaking for people that they know personally. So I don't know if it's fair to go in on this girl just because she had that opinion. The reality is that some men do get babies, so it's not like she's lying by saying that in 2021, stop babying black men.
In caps, it says all black men. So all black men includes me and you.
No, I mean all black men who are babied. That's who she's talking about, because I'm not babied and you're not baby. So it sounds like you want to attack this person.
No, not really. Listen, you said I might owe her an apology. Listen, and sometimes in shootout like that is a war statement right there. There's casualties of wars all the time. There's some strays that get caught. If this bullet wasn't meant for her, if this truth bullet and this heat wasn't meant for her, oh well, I apologize to you, I guess. What do you got next for us, Justin?
Somebody said, we've talked about this before. Somebody said inviting non-black people to the cookout for doing it, like respecting black people and our existence. Like the next person who says it is going to get the dog mess slapped out of them for real. Y'all know my opinion on that. It's Juneteenth. It's summertime. So there actually is some cookouts going on. So for any of y'all that are new to this show, maybe y'all don't know what the proverbial cookout is. The cookout is a hypothetical event where black people are celebrating themselves. Dante and I talk about this all the time. I believe that black people should have, we used to, but I believe that black people should have a space for themselves to celebrate ourselves, because in many spaces we aren't celebrated. So the hypothetical cookout is there to celebrate our achievements, our accomplishments, to uplift each other, to have fun, eat, grab a plate, bring something of your own, as long as it tastes good, and we have a good time. Other people, if you see on the internet, they'll be like, oh, this person, helped a black person. They get a plate and they are invited to the hypothetical cookout. And a lot of people are saying that we should put a stop to that, because the cookout was never intended for people who aren't black. So we shouldn't be inviting people that aren't black into the cookout when it's a black space.
That is the history of cookout discussions on this podcast. So I think what the beautiful part about intelligent people like you and I having conversations is we can always say, I understand what you're saying, but sometimes we can understand what each other's saying and disagree. In this instance, what this person wrote, yes, I agree. Like, nobody should be getting the imaginary invite for doing the bare minimum, right? Like, if you turned your profile, if you posted a black square that day, like, oh, you're allowed to cook out now, like, nah, that's never what I was defending when it came to these cookout invitations. So yeah, I agree with this person.
For the people that are new, like, what is your caveat?
Like I said, I understand, and the more I think on it, I agree with. I'm not there 100%, but I agree with what you say. Like, hey, a space to celebrate ourselves. Like, we could do a separate event where everybody's allowed, right? All the allies, in air quote, are allowed. So, yeah, I'm with you on this now. The more I think about it, there could be a separate event, like let's call it a barbecue or a kickback or something. I don't know.
We love that evolution. That's interesting. But yeah, that's our opinion when it comes to.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
When you frame it like that, where it's like, hey, it's a space for us to celebrate us, then yes, it should be us. When you frame it like that, yeah, I agree with you 100%.
But Dante, I've always framed it like that.
This is the first time I'm hearing you frame it like
no,
that. In my
go
mind.
back and listen.
In my
I've
mind.
always framed it like
Point out
this.
the episode. Give me the timestamps. No, I'm messing with you. I'm gaslighting you. I'm gaslighting you. I'm gaslighting you.
Okay.
It's okay.
Because I was like, I've always had this opinion, and that's why I was always confused, because it's not a hard opinion to agree with. Not that you have to agree, but I'm like, I don't know. Another person tweeted, what is something that black people need to get rid of in 2021? And they said, people of color. And I felt some type of way about this because I kind of feel strongly about this. I'm not a person of color. I am black. I feel like some people try and group us all together. Anybody that's not white, oh, they're a person of color. But that is not really a great term because we need to look at everybody as individuals. I am black. If somebody addresses me as a person of color, I'll politely tell them, no, I'm black. It's okay to call me black. Some people think that black is a bad word. It's not. I am black. You can refer to me as black. It doesn't hurt my feelings. I'm not a person of color. I'm black.
I don't feel as, put it like this. You're a nicer man than me when it comes to somebody. Like if somebody walked up to me and said, oh yeah, you're colored, it ain't gonna be no polite anything. Like that's throwing hands territory right there. It's like you walking up to me calling me a nigger. Like, yeah, that's throwing hands territory. You ain't gonna call me colored. This ain't 1955. And even back then, I think I'd have took whatever came to me if you'd have called me fucking colored. I think people of color is a politically correct way that people have come up with. People on the left side, liberals, trying to be inclusive and everything. The best way that they think they could have come up with a politically correct way to group people who are not white. But yes, you're right. Like, so sometimes you create a subcategory and the waters get too murky.
And I think that this can be our chance to criticize the left, because even though I consider myself on the left, I'm not radical left, I'm not far left, I'm left of center. I think that sometimes the left goes too far in being inclusive. I understand the need to be inclusive, but I feel like sometimes, as Dante said, it muddies the water. Like when representation comes up, I feel like sometimes people go too far, like especially when we talk about acting, because I remember when me and Dante were talking about acting and people were saying that a trans person should play a trans character in real life. And I agree, it kind of becomes complicated if you're saying that anybody that's trans has to be played by a trans person, because at the end of the day, the job is acting. But I do understand that this community is so marginalized already, and they're basically saying, at least let us play ourselves. If you're not going to give us roles as straight people, at least let us play ourselves on film. And I think that that's what they're saying. But it can be scary because it can become a situation where it's like straight people can only play straight people, gay people can only play gay people, and we don't want that. Actors have the ability to act. The issue is people in Hollywood need to diversify who they're giving roles to so everybody can get a chance to take part in the craft.
I agree. Like you said, my example and my thought there, it gets super complicated because it's like, yeah, I agree. Like you should have the chance to play somebody who is representing you on screen. But do we have people that are able to do it, right? And this is what goes back to our affirmative action conversations that we have on here. Should somebody get that role just because they're trans? What if there's a better actor who is not trans to play that role? They play that role with more conviction. They're just a better actor. Should the trans person still get that role? That's the kind of questions that we will be asking about this. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong to ask that. The thing is, sometimes when we make arguments like that, I know you didn't mean it like that, but it can sound like the trans person isn't as good as an actor, but you're just using a specific example.
Yeah, I'm using a very specific example. I'm saying that if two people go for that role and the person who is not trans is clearly better, should the trans person still get the role? Because that's the conversations that we will be having. I'm not saying that a trans person is not qualified.
Yeah, if the trans person isn't as good as an actor as the straight person, they shouldn't get the job, because I think with casting, you should cast the people that are best for that role, right? So if they're not as good, they should get it. But the issue is there are plenty of talented trans people that can play that role. And the issue is they're not getting those roles. If the person comes along and they're qualified, they can act their ass off and they're trans, give it to them.
I think this is the evolution of this podcast and the most we've agreed when it comes to subjects like this, because the way you laid it out, I'm with you on that, right? You're qualified, you should get it. I mean, period, point blank. You know what I mean? Like that, there's no arguing that. If you're qualified for it, you should get it. And I think that there are people out there that are trans that are great actors, and they don't get their just due because it is a marginalized group of people. For sure.
And that's why they're like, I'm a great actor, at least let me play myself. If you're going to create a role that is trans, don't just give it to a straight person because you've always casted, well, I don't even know if I'm using the right terminology. Don't give it to like a binary person. This is hard. We're all learning here, so excuse me if I'm not getting this all correct, but don't just give it to the typical person that you normally give it to. If a trans person is talented, give it to them. But I don't want it to become a situation where it's like a trans role opens up and only a trans person can play it. No, that's not true. If a straight role opens up, trans people should be just as qualified to play those roles as well, and they are. So give those people opportunities and bring them in.
I agree. Do you think now, because you are a fan of, film and that art form, if a straight actor played a trans role, do you think that gives them a shoe-in for being nominated and winning an award? I.e. Jared Leto for Dallas Buyers Club, even though I know he was not trans in that film. I'm just saying, using that as an example there.
No, because just because you play...
Do you think... I'm sorry for interrupting you. Do you think that there would be straight actors going out for these roles in hopes of winning an award? Because, transformation has been a big theme into winning awards at the Oscars.
Of course. I think that actors go for certain roles so they can get awards. And sometimes whenever they play somebody who is trans or somebody who is non-binary, they feel like in a way that's a shoe-in to get nominations. But the movie still has to be good, the script has to be good, and your performance still has to be good. So it's not a shoe-in for a nomination just because you played a trans person. All the other elements of proper filmmaking still have to be completed in order for you to get a nomination. But there are actors that do go for certain roles so they can get nominated. Like I think Hilary Swank in a movie called Boys Don't Cry or something like that. I think she played a woman that transitioned to a boy, and I think she won an Oscar for that. Eddie Redmayne, he was in a movie called The Danish Girl, and I think he played the first trans person, and he got an Oscar nomination for that. So there has been evidence of straight people going for those roles, and sometimes it's worked to their benefit. But I don't think it's a shoe-in just because a trans role opens up that it's going to be worthy of awards.
Gotcha. Yeah, because that would be my fear, is that straight people start targeting these roles and even further locking people out who could play this role. You know what I mean?
It's happened because Scarlett Johansson, I think she was set to play like a trans person, I believe, allegedly, and people criticized her, and I think the community came through and they were like, why are you taking this role? Give it to a trans person, or let a trans person, take this role. And then she got defensive and she's like, I'm an actor, I should be able to play a tree or whatever. And she's right, but I don't know. I think that people need to give trans people opportunities. That's the bottom line. She's right that she's an actor and she should be able to play whatever she wants. It's just hard when those few roles aren't going to trans people, or few roles in general are going to trans people. They don't get anything. So they're like, man, I can't even get a single role. And when a role opens up that happens to deal with my identity and I still don't get it, it's like I can't win at all.
Here's Billy Porter talking with The Hollywood Reporter about the difficulties of being cast in roles when you're a minority.
It's a double layer. The layer of actually being a person of color in this industry, and then the other layer of being a queen.
Yep.
Nobody can see you as anything else. If flamboyantly ... wasn't in the description of the character, no one would see me ever for anything. Which wouldn't be so enraging if it went the other direction, but it doesn't.
Right.
Because straight men playing gay, everybody wants to give them an award. Thank you for gracing us with your straight presence.
Yeah.
So that gets tiresome.
Yep.
So here I sit, I can't get the gay parts, I can't get the straight parts, I can't get nothing.
Yeah, I agree. You got any more Twitter topics?
Somebody said over seasoning our food is something that we need to get rid of. I agree 100%. One time, my roommate, shout out to Darius because he's a secret fan. He's listening right now. My roommate in college, I remember he was making some kind of chicken dish or something. He's like, oh, Justin, do you want to try some? And then I tried some. And then when he turned around, I made a face. And I could not believe the levels of sodium that was in whatever that he cooked up. I was like, this is a lot. I don't think I ever told him that. I think he was like, was it good? And I was like, yeah, it's really good. But it was so salty, and I don't know what kind of seasonings he put in that, but I was like, I couldn't even eat one bite of that. I couldn't imagine that he was eating that. You know, some people be over seasoning their food. It's a fact.
This is true. You know, I've gone to some soul food restaurants where I'm like, oh my God, I see why people got the diabetes and shit and the high blood pressures out here.
The precious.
The precious and the sugars is what they call it. They got the sugars. Yes, our people have been guilty of this. But to be honest, I think I'd rather have my stuff over seasoned than under seasoned because I don't want to eat. Imagine eating a chicken breast that has not been touched by a single spice or seasoning or herb.
That's not hard to imagine because some people, they don't season at all. And I don't get it. I think, honestly, let's just put a rest to this argument. I think it's a cultural thing. I think that Black people season their food because we're always cooking. We have all these fancy spices from all the different places that we come from. We're used to that. But other communities,
I think it is a remnant of slavery as to why Black people were seasoning their food. They were given the worst cuts of food. They were given rancid food. They were given the vegetables that were not desirable, that might have been on the verge of spoiling. So they had to season that shit up to make it edible. You know, I think that's what it comes down from. And a lot of people learn how to cook from their elder, who would pass it down to them. So if you have this chain and lineage of people passing these recipes down, trace them back to slavery. You know what I mean?
I think that's why we do season our food. But some people always talk about the stereotype that, you know, white people don't season their food. And we always talk about how there are some truths to stereotypes. And I think it's definitely true. I think that maybe as a culture, like spices and seasonings is not available. That's why they went to all these different places and colonized and traded and got all these different spices. So it's all new for them. Because if you notice, if you add anything that's a little bit spicy, some of my friends would be like, oh my God, how spicy. I'm like, this is not spicy. Can you calm down? It's like, have you never had like semi-seasoned food before? And I think it's a cultural thing. Like, that's why in their community, I think they have lower rates of hypertension and diabetes because they don't put all that in their food. Because when they talk about how Black people have a lot of high levels of diabetes and heart disease, it's because of our culture and the foods that we eat.
I mean, and it's a fact. Like, Black people, we gotta stop using so much sugar because I saw the video just from Philly a couple weeks ago. This soul food restaurant. This lady put a 5-pound bag of sugar on top of her yams. I said, "Yo, like, what are you doing? In one pan of yams, baby girl, 5 pounds of sugar." Bro, I done seen people, and I've been guilty of it in my younger years. I done seen making Kool-Aid. You put the spoon in there, stir that motherfucker up, and it's standing up straight because it's stuck in the sugar. Like, we gotta do better. We gotta do better.
We do. Over seasoning our food is real, and whoever wrote that cares about the community because that's a problem. Because sometimes food can taste good with a little less. You know, they say less is mo. Less is mo. So I believe in it. Somebody said Christianity. We're not talking about that. These people are so funny. So the Black community needs to rid itself of luxury brands losing value once we become more aware of it. I think that this is stupid.
Hold on. That doesn't make sense to me. How can Black people control that the brand lost value once Black people became aware of it? That doesn't make sense to me. Am I interpreting this wrong?
It's like whenever a brand pops up and everybody's wearing it, like it's more accessible or more affordable, people think it's lesser than. So they're basically saying that it's tiring when people are like, oh, a luxury brand has lost value because it's more accessible to everybody.
Yeah, that just comes from, you know, social constructs and elitism and all that stuff. You want to feel better than somebody else, so you go out there and hurt your pockets to prove a point and all that. Like, listen, there's a lot of people out there that's super broke trying to keep up with other motherfuckers that got a better financial situation than them.
For what?
I think that's dumb. And I think that I've seen this in the reverse actually recently. Like, when I was growing up, like, if you wore Champion, you was a fucking loser, bro. You could buy that shit at Walmart for like $5. Now a Champion shirt costs $50 because people wearing it again. You know what I mean?
It's so sad, man.
I've seen the reverse too.
It's so sad because in reality, as long as it looks good, who cares? I guess sometimes some of that branded material does look tacky and ugly when you have a big logo plastered on your chest or a big emblem on your jeans or whatever. It looks tacky. But if it looks good and nobody knows the brand, like, who cares? Wear what you want to wear. That's one regret that I have when I look back at school, like wanting to like keep up with the Joneses and wear the latest this and the greatest that. You know, in reality, wear what you're comfortable in, wear what you like, and that's all that matters. Because when you grow up and you get older, when you look back on your younger years, you remember how much none of that matters. You probably don't talk to any of those people anymore. Probably those people don't even remember you anymore. So it's like, I was caring this much about what other people think about me, when in reality, years in the future, it doesn't even matter. Now that you're older and you have your own money, you can buy what you want. If you want name brands, you can go for it. If not, it's whatever, but it doesn't matter. But it's hard because in school, high school, middle school, wherever, it's your world. But there's a world beyond high school, and it's much better, honestly, because I hated the high school that I went to and the people that I went to high school with. It wasn't a great experience, but high school is not my world. I don't really talk to anybody from high school anymore, and none of it matters. So as long as you're happy in your own skin, wearing what you want to wear, that's all that matters. Because if somebody laughs at you for wearing Fila or whatever, they're stupid because they're bullying somebody because they're wearing clothes. Like, at least they have clothes.
That's the biggest part about it. Yes, it's clothes that they can afford. You know, I had a talk similar to this with my mom a couple weeks ago. I took my parents out to dinner or whatever, and I was wearing a pair of Jordans she never saw before. She said, "How many pairs of shoes you have?" I'm like, "Man, it's over 30. But you know what? Like, my bills are paid. I can afford to do this. You know what I mean? I can afford to buy all the J's that I want because y'all could buy me the J's back in the day when I wanted them, but you weren't going to buy them at the rate that I wanted to buy them because you had other responsibilities."
Right?
Like, yeah. So
there's
now that I'm
more
in a
to
position
life.
to do it, if I want to do it, I can do it. You know what I mean? And people will hate on you because they see that you have the ability to do stuff. So if people hate on me because, oh, he got a nice car, or oh, look at, he could wear a different pair of J's every day of the week. Guess what? I got priorities. My priorities are taken care of. This is expendable income, and I can do what I want to do. And that's not a flex. That's just saying, stay the fuck out of other people's pockets.
Yeah, because the thing is, the bigger picture is that people will be jealous of you and your name brand stuff, and people will hate on you for being in non-name brand stuff. So in some respects, you can't win. So you're never going to have the approval of everybody. And I think that's a full circle moment for the pod, because we were talking about Kevin Hart and how he can never get the approval of everybody. It's impossible. You cannot live life chasing the opinions of other people, and especially people that don't matter to the grand scheme of your life. Surround yourself with people that love you. Wear what you want to wear. Life is short, so enjoy it while you're here, because every day is not promised. So I'm not going to use my time to make fun of somebody else for wearing something. If they want to wear that, that's on them. I might throw shade here and there, but truly, whenever I'm talking on this podcast, it's never coming from a place of malice. So it's all in good fun. So my job is to make sure we're giving y'all entertaining content that's smart, that's funny, that's entertaining. That's our goal, and I feel like we're doing that. I love doing the show, so that's all that matters to me. So hope you guys continue to remember that message, because life is short.
All right, guys. We gave you a full-fledged episode right there. Let us know what you think about some of these things that, on Twitter, they're saying the black community should leave in 2021. If you have opinions on what the Drake situation, allegedly, Kevin Hart, everything that we covered today. Texas. Right. Texas. You got opinions on any of that? Let us know. We love it when you talk back to the show. Write in anonymous questions, please. We'll read them on air. Hope you really enjoyed our Q&A episode. Like, share, subscribe, leave a rating, leave a review. It all helps.
Did you notice? I don't know. Somebody gave us a rating, and now we're at a 4.8. We went from a 5.0 to a 4.8. I saw that yesterday. I was mad.
I did not, but as soon as we get off of here, I'm going to go take a look on it.
So y'all counteract that. Make us 4.9 and a 5 again. Make this podcast great again.
No, that we're not going to use that slogan. We're not going to use that slogan. But yeah, leave a rating, review. Go tell your friends to tell their friends about it. But for Justin, I'm Dante. We're polar opposites. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you next time.
Bye, guys.